Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have, I know, at least one addition to the agenda with an event request from the library. Is there anything else?
I'd like to add a request to quickly send a letter to the Public Service Commission in support of Assemblyman Cahill's letter asking for an extension of the hearing of Fortis purchasing Central Hudson, which is, I guess, going to end this Friday, and he is requesting that we ask for a 90-day extension and setting the budget hearing for April 10th.
I'll just put that under budget.
Okay.
Anything, Katie, you have anything else?
We have the library for walking the dog, and we also have a resolution of the Board of Trustees for the village setting the time and place for the public hearing with respect to the tentative budget for the fiscal year 2013-2014, with that date being April 10th.
Right. Yeah, so I just mentioned that
Yeah,
one. So we'll fold that into the conversation with the budget.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, I'll move to approve the agenda. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public comment. Anyone here for vote? No? So an entire class from participation in government tonight? Is that what it is? Okay.
Welcome.
Not participating that
And,
vigorously.
they don't let me do this, but Katie, do not sign the papers until at least they look bored.
Oh,
Don't, you
I
know.
told them I wouldn't send until it's the hour end.
All right, good, thank you. Perfect. Make you suffer. All right, any announcements by the board? Okay, hearing none.
Actually, yeah, the DEC Composting Summit, the conference was moved from yesterday to tomorrow, but I hear there might be more snow, so it was because of the storm, it was canceled. So I was actually hoping to have information from that for all of you, but that will be forthcoming.
Okay. All right, I'll move, well, our consent agenda is simply the approval of the minutes, but I'll move it. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'd like to rearrange some things because we have Nancy here to discuss the presentation of the tentative budget and then Joe here to discuss some legal updates. So,
Can we do a library first? So
yeah, that's the third part. It was the library. So Nancy, that's all right. We'll deal with this one thing first. I'm sorry, who's from the library?
Gotcha.
Oh, hi, how are you? You want to
Mayor
just
West.
tell us give us the gist for the people who might be curious?
I'm Charlie Dye, and I'm on the Board of Trustees at Elkin Library, and we are planning a walk in the dog for the library fundraiser. It's kind of like a walk-a-thon, except we walk the dog. And we have the Gilded Otter is going to let us have their parking lot on May the 4th. The walk will be over by 10 o'clock in the morning, but we are trying to we need to know what we need to have. Do we need a permit, a parade permit? So I'm here to find out before we proceed any further with it.
Sure. Usually you can always ask our clerk, you don't have to wait till the meeting to get those questions answered, but I'm not sure exactly what it is you're looking to do. If you're doing just this on the sidewalks, you don't need any permit.
Well,
if you're doing
we're registering between 8:30 and 9:30, but we're not waiting for everybody to be registered to start the walk. We're going to have people just go in little groups.
But where is the walk?
It starts on Huguenot Street at the Gilded Otter parking lot. It heads north on Huguenot to Mulberry, turns right on Mulberry, right on the rail trail, and then comes all the way back down to La Station. There's a place where they can come back through in there. So it's about a mile. The public area would be going down Huguenot and Mulberry, but we're not expecting, this is our first year, probably I'd be happy if we had 100 walkers.
Yeah.
But they're not all leaving at the same time. We might, like every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, we'd say, okay, you group go. So they're going in groups. I don't visualize them walking abreast in the street. They could be walking on one side of the street on Huguenot and up.
Would they be in the street or on the sidewalk? Because
Well,
it makes a difference in that.
Sidewalk ends at,
Broadhead.
oh, it does, okay. That sidewalk, well.
So it would just be the section from
Huguenot to the rail trail is the only non-sidewalk section.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It makes a difference only in that you don't need any permits if you are staying on the sidewalk and in motion.
I'm sorry,
You don't need any permits or permission from anybody if you're on the sidewalk and moving.
Oh, really?
So you could have, take, for example, a protest of some kind, just as long as you're walking down the sidewalk,
Right.
doesn't matter. The permits only come in when you're blocking sidewalks or blocking streets, blocking the free access of other pedestrians and
Right,
cars.
right.
Then you need the village board and police permission. So if it's something that's small scale as a first run this year that you're on the sidewalks, you actually don't even need our permission whatsoever.
You're kidding me.
No. If you're going to be blocking the streets, then for us to put up barricades and close the streets down, then you need our
Not
permission.
unless it was really a wonderful outturn, but I don't, I think it's going to be very small this
I
year.
think you're fine without us then.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have another
Except for letting us
question
know,
that
yeah.
you may have an answer to, is that we're trying to get in touch with the rail trail people to see what we need to do to walk on the rail trail, but it sounds like to me it's the
Feet,
same
I
thing.
think, is all you need, yeah.
Huh?
Just feet
A fee?
to walk on the rail trail.
But they don't answer my
Yeah.
queries, they're not telling me, yeah, you own it, yes.
I'm actually liaison to the.
My ears are
Welcome.
stuck up, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm a liaison to the Walker Valley Rail Trail Association, and I would say that you're perfectly fine to do it. They would just want notice so they can post it on their calendar.
Okay, can you tell me how to get in touch with them so that I can let them know? Okay. Do
Let's
you
go.
have a card?
I can just jot down myself for you. Yeah, I'd be happy.
There's also a meeting tomorrow at the Elton Library.
Yeah, there's a meeting for the Walker Valley Rail. It's the annual meeting tomorrow at the library, but I mean,
Where is it?
It's a lot.
at the library.
Yeah. 7 p.m.
Yeah,
I think.
7. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Here,
7
Brian.
p.m. too. We're having a meeting at 7 p.m. So
I guess you're
you're going to be
upstairs.
in the Steinberg room?
Mhm.
Huh?
They're in the Steinberg.
Okay, okay. I'll see you there tomorrow.
Yeah, you may be fine and not have had to come here at all.
No, but, well, this is
It
great.
sounds like it, yes. From our end, you don't need anything. From the rail trail, you may need their permission, but other than that, you're fine. You don't need our permission at all.
And then next year we'll start it much earlier now that we are not doing things.
And if it gets to the point where it's big enough where it's going to block traffic or people walking, then come back. But otherwise, you're fine without
Thank you,
us.
Brian. Thank you very much.
But-
Thank you very
but
much.
Maybe since we're on television, you want to give a little publicity.
Oh,
It's
some
May 4th.
publicity. Yes.
Go ahead, say it.
The library
The Elding
is-
Memorial Library is having a fundraiser, a dog walk on Huguenot Street and the rail trail, 8:30 to 10:30, Saturday, May 4th. And we hope if you have a dog and like to walk them, you will support the library.
And registration takes place in the parking lot. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Nancy, actually, before we say, what's this fiscal year's tax rate? 4.8,
The current tax rate is
4.94?
4.846.
846.
And there's a copy of the new budget. I don't know if you
Thanks.
printed one out.
Which is
Yeah.
477.
Yeah. All right. Actually, that brings us right up to the budget. By today, mayors in villages, I suppose, are supposed to present the tentative budgets. So in front of you is my tentative budget to the board, as vetted by the finance committee of the treasurer Nancy Branco and trustee Sally Rhodes. I don't have my calculator on me, but it is proposing whatever reduction in the tax rate from 4.846 to 4.799. I don't know what that is percentage-wise off the top of my head. It's more than 1%, but I'm not sure how much more. If someone has a calculator handy, that'd be useful. I just don't happen to have one. There are a couple of outstanding things in this budget. One is, as I sent all the trustees just yesterday, a spreadsheet looking at the fire department budget over the past 2 years of actual spending versus proposed. I've yet to hear back from the fire chief. I have 2 calls into him since last Friday or Saturday, but that may be adjusted if there's something completely remarkable that I just you don't understand. For example, it may be that there's something that we spend money on once every 3 years rather than annually. That would adjust things a little bit. Brian has some numbers he's hoping to drum up in time for a better way to deal with our website. Ariana has some thoughts on composting facilities, which we'll be talking about a little bit later tonight. But other than that, I guess I don't really know what else to say except to answer tonight general questions if you have any. I figured next week, tonight to kind of present it, get it in front of you. If you have any kind of big picture, broad questions, we can answer them. But really get into the nuts and bolts of it next Wednesday's meeting. And I don't think it'll take us that much more. A couple meetings. We're not looking at a huge having a tax cut at all in this climate, let alone a more than 1%, is I think fairly unusual. And so I can't see us really spending 2 months really arguing a lot back and forth and having to make a lot of hard decisions. We've got some breathing room. If we do need to go into a 1% to 2% tax increase because of things that we're not planned for yet or things that are coming up, that's within our power. We did pass a resolution to go over 2% if we need to. But I think starting at a starting point of -1 and -2, I think is a pretty good starting point, which will kind of give us the resources we need for whatever it is that we think that is important. Because I'm not hearing a lot of, 6-figure proposals from trustees that would need to adjust the budget. So if we're looking at a few $1,000s here or there, or maybe a few tens of thousands one way or the other, that's the universe we're looking at tinkering with, not out of the several million. So we got it pretty tight, to within 5 figures one way or the other. So
We did not put any money in to cover the consolidation grant that we're applying for.
that was another question.
And we do have to pay for that. It would come in as a revenue, we hope, but we did not put that in the budget. And so that is up to the board to decide how much and what they want to put in for.
And to keep in mind too that a lot of the things that were requested by the department heads and the board, actually not so much the board, but the department heads, are being spent out of this year's budget. So we took as many one-time expenditures that were requested and brought it back to get in before this fiscal year ends, to use whatever reserves, not reserves, but what's the word? Nancy, yeah, whatever that would have been. Yeah. So that's another thing we can look at is how much of that we have earmarked, and if we are going to look at applying for a grant of any kind, frankly, between now and was it June 20th? Was the deadline for this close out this fiscal year? June 8th.
Close out the fiscal year is the payment is June 19th.
June 19th. So if it's something that we buy between now and June 19th, it's coming out of this fiscal year. We don't have to do it within the budget. So if it's a grant we're applying for, I don't know if that
Do you want to earmark it in this year's budget?
Well, I guess we'll add that to the list, to the short list of things to discuss.
Okay.
Is that gonna be grant funded, that expense?
I think, given what I know and what we were talking about on Monday night, we should budget $30,000 to cover the accountant and the attorney as our half. I mean, that's on the high side. And we are applying for a grant to get that paid for, but we still have to show
But we
it.
don't know for sure if the grant money's
Right.
coming in.
That's not,
So you can't book it on both sides. You can't book it on both sides.
No. So the question is, should we put that in for next year or earmark some of the fund balance this year?
When is it all going to take place?
I don't think before our books
So we'd
end.
have to book it in next year's budget.
Okay. The other thing I was gonna suggest, Jason, is I think we ought to add 10,000 to contingency. We only have 20,000 in.
Well, we have been putting 20,000 in the past few years. That's
We've
standard.
always had 20.
20 is standard.
But
But let's.
you're gonna have more expenses that you're
Yeah.
not.
But we can add, why don't we do this instead of debating some of the dollar figures
Right.
this week?
Just
Put
think
in
about it.
consolidation, contingency, I
Do you
guess
need money for the
website and
the
compost.
solar
Well, now,
grant?
the website we
Because-
have in this year's budget, we have 10,000 in.
But that depends on the timing.
And if we don't expend it, it will go to fund balance.
Everything goes to fund.
So then we can reinitiate it. We don't need to increase the
Yeah.
budget for it.
Well, it would have to be rebooked into the new budget.
We'd have to rebook it. Brian, do you think we'll have at least some sense of website expenditure by the end of the year? Not our fiscal end year.
That was my plan by the end of the year. I was hoping I'm gonna try to rush as much as I can and get something to you guys before the budget
Okay.
is finalized.
Okay.
I mean,
So
that
we're just
makes
gonna leave
sense.
that as an open question
Okay,
for now.
open question.
We've got a couple weeks
Yeah.
what's the final date that we adopt the budget? End of April, end of May?
May 1st.
May 1st, yeah. So we've got,
So April 24th is
5
our
weeks.
last meeting.
Yeah, but we have to set the hearing.
So you'd want to probably adopt your budget on the 24th.
yeah.
Right,
Because I have to
exactly.
file forms too with the comptroller once you adopt the budget.
Right. That'll give a little more time.
All right, I guess, are there any one of the big
Well, I do
questions?
have
What
a
you
question
need?
because
Yeah.
we made a motion and we passed this resolution with the town board about the solar grant, and there is a matching fund that we're not supposed to have to pay, but I don't know exactly whether or not we will have to pay. So I don't know if we
You
want to
mean
budget
whether
for
it's a
that.
reimbursement or
Yeah,
anything?
exactly.
Yeah.
That was the email.
From what I read, it seemed like it was a reimbursement.
So I mean, I don't know if we should budget for anything like
We can
that,
show it
and
on
then
both
we can.
sides.
Well,
Yeah,
then-
and show the revenue as well as.
I don't
Okay.
think we should budget for that because, as I understood Randolph, and I
She
sent
did say
Jason
it wouldn't
an
cost
email,
us anything.
the maximum we could absolutely get is 400,000,
Right,
and then our share would be 21,600,
600.
and the town would be the same. But if he say only gets 200,000, then that gets gradated down.
Right, it's
And
5%.
depending upon what the grant says, we get to still discuss it among ourselves before we approve going into it. So I would
And
think,
even if we did go, even if we did move forward, Nancy's right that it would just show up on both sides of the ledger as a revenue and an
Right.
expense.
If you
and
don't use it, you
therefore
don't
wash.
use it, it just
yeah,
washes.
but our contribution, Ariana's right, would be 21,600
That's what we
max.
have to pay.
Maximum.
out of pocket.
Yeah, which is
Maximum.
why I was thinking we should add 10,000 to the contingency if and I doubt we'll get the full 400. So I was thinking, that we should put that in contingency. We can't earmark it yet because we haven't gotten it yet.
Right.
But that was my thinking.
I just didn't know if we should budget
Yeah.
for it.
Well,
So, I mean, I would say put it on the list and we can see,
and the
we
bus
can
shelters,
hash it
Yeah.
out.
the bus shelters are in, right, under blues.
I don't know. Actually, have you heard?
I wouldn't know something like that,
Nancy,
but I know that the number is
we're not
$3,600.
I don't know, we can look in his worksheets.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't recall seeing bush shelter.
I mean, I started going through this, but having only gotten it today, it was
Yeah.
difficult to get through,
That's what I
even
figured.
half of it.
Over
I thought
2 weeks.
that
would be-
question
Yeah.
came up.
Actually, I would love if instead of doing it like this, if you would present it to us, maybe
Present what part of it?
all of it. Go through it maybe the way you would have liked the fiscal committee to have gone through theirs,
Right.
line by line, and tell us your thought process on each one of these items.
We can do that. We can do like budget line by budget line, or at least the ones that were changed from the tentative or whatnot. Because I think Nancy, we gave them the sheets that were most recent.
But the changes aren't
The
marked.
master copy.
Yeah,
So yeah, at least that you can at least see that. At least the changes from the proposed to what we got here. The whole thing is useful, or just
I mean, I
Good
think it'd
parts.
be a useful practice for everybody.
would that would
we can
be
do that next. When we can look through it. What's that?
Where would that be?
I'm not sure, I'd have to go through his lines.
I mean, honestly, when we met, it took all of 20 minutes to half an hour to go through the whole thing.
Well, normally you
The
make
last
the department
time.
heads, and then you make your changes with the department
Yeah.
heads.
So I mean, we can go line by line at the next on the 27th if you wanted to. We're going to do that tonight.
I would like to do that tonight since we're on a short time.
Can I ask that we do that at the very end, because I may have
Sure.
to leave you all, and you may have to leave too.
Yeah, because we don't need Nancy here if the two of us are here for that. We don't need to do this for her.
I just had a few questions on next week's agenda. There's a report from the Ethics Commissions, and I know that one of the things they're asking the board to do is to put a minor amount, $200 in the budget for 4 meetings, $50 apiece for clerical, for the commission to do the minutes and such. So that's in the report that the clerk has, that'll be in your packet next time. Another concern is Moriello Park. Now we have this little subcommittee of town board and village board people, and we haven't met yet because they haven't given us their proposal, but in the last few days, Kevin Barry has given me a preliminary report on some work that has to be done at the park. And speaking with the treasurer about it, we probably have enough funds in there from our prior experience to be able to pay for that. But as I recall, there was the town had budgeted only so much, and then they were perhaps looking to us to budget the rest of it. Are we gonna discuss that all during our budget, or just?
This budget what?
Well, remember, there was.
They're dead in this?
One of the meetings, they said, well, because there's a, is it $40,000 or $60,000 hit every year, and they've been paying the whole thing, and they wanted the town and the village to each share equally in it. Now, there was not necessarily agreement on that, but I'm just saying that's what they said. So should we be discussing putting something in the budget for the park or not at this point? Because if it comes to that and we don't have it in the budget in the summer, then there may be some kind of a crunch and we might have to cut back services. So I don't know, that's just a question.
I'm gonna say what I said the night they brought this up. I strongly object to that. The Moriello Park is paid for through the A Fund. The Village of New Paltz represents 26% of the tax levy of the A Fund. The Moriello Park is run solely by the town, and I'm sorry, if they don't manage it well, they have to do one of two things: decide whether Moriello Pool should be totally subsidized by the taxpayers and a free gift to the community since they pay for it, or they need to raise their rates and end their loss. But I don't think we should burden the village taxpayers more than our 26%, which we already pay for through the A Fund.
Okay,
And I feel
guess
very strongly about that.
I'm not taking anyone's position, I'm just saying it was put out to us, so I don't know if it's appropriate to discuss it as part of the budget. The other thing is, of course, there's a possibility, the village could take it over and run it itself.
But that's also a discussion.
So that just was on my mind when I was thinking about it. Another thing in the fire department, I didn't look at this yet because I just got it, but we know that there's a General Municipal Law Section 209D request for them, which is something they're allowed to ask for, to have a payment go directly to them from the amount that's paid, because we have providing service outside of our municipality, and it would be paid for by the other municipality, the town. So in trying to deal with that, things, I think, and we've been talking about this, and I think we may be able to work this out, but we have to look closely at that cost, and hopefully by next week we can have a proposal that everyone likes to do that. And I know Joe's been working on it and be getting input from everyone. So that's just
my understanding
a new wrinkle.
Is that payment is not paid by village residents, but only town residents. So it wouldn't affect our tax rate and I guess it would affect the budget overall, but since whatever increase of that would show up as a revenue from the town.
It wouldn't affect the budget.
It wouldn't affect the budget at all. It would affect the town budget, but not the village budget.
It will affect your contract.
Right, and the town fire district budget it would affect, but not the village budget.
True, but the one, because then the town would be paying increase, the village wouldn't. One of the possibilities is there's some funds that in the past have come from the town. Is it
UCRA?
UCRA funds that come from the town, and they have, I guess, heretofore gone to the equipment reserve fund, and now we have specifically in the new contract, we're aiming to have $25,000 from each municipality put in there, so we wouldn't need that. So perhaps, and it wouldn't affect the village budget if it wasn't paid to the village. So maybe that's the negotiation piece with the town, that they could keep that money and they'll pay the whole 209D amount. So that's
wait, back, because I'm a little bit fuzzy here tonight. Are you saying that use the Ulster County Erosion Recovery Agency host community benefit to offset the payment to the company from the town?
Yeah, because the
but then we'd have to increase the amount we give to the equipment reserve anyway to make up the RA.
It would have nothing to do with it because the money comes from UCRA to the town. The town gives it to us to put into the fire department's reserve fund.
But the town didn't get any money
We
this
haven't
year.
gotten, they haven't gotten any money yet this year.
So that's a mute point.
No, but it's
Well,
part of
it
the
may be
contract.
it's been like, it's about,
Yeah.
it's about,
Yeah.
in the past, it's been about $10,000, is that right? So if they're gonna pay hypothetically $25,000 more because of the 209D, and there was an offset for this roughly $10,000, then it's fairly close to evening it up, and it doesn't affect the village budget because it would go into the equipment reserve, and we're already putting $50,000 into, for sure, into the equipment reserve, so that
Which,
should
by the way,
work.
this budget reflects.
Okay.
50,000 going into
Well,
the.
that's super. So I think, assuming they look at it that way, that would work out. But I'm just saying that's the kinds of things we have to come to grips with.
But back to Moriella Pool, one of the things that did come up in the discussion, Paul, you don't need to stay, we already did it.
You did?
Yes.
Outstanding. Thank you all.
Welcome, Paul. Have a good night.
You're welcome to stay.
And I'll sign those if you really want. No?
Anyway.
Alright, good.
We're not even a half hour into it.
The thing
I mean, no one's ever sit through budget discussions if they don't have to.
We have not, the thing about Moriella that we did talk about, which I think we may need to put money in for, is the ADA requirements, which is a capital improvement. But
Right.
that's where we are halvesies with the town. So we need to know what ADA improvements they are thinking about for the pool and budget for that.
Well,
There's
is,
also
sorry, I was gonna say, is what we're looking at a capital improvement? What the latest project is?
Well,
Because they're trying to bring up that it's like the filter basically.
Right,
well,
that's
yeah.
gonna pay.
it's pumps.
Yeah,
It's just
So-
an operational expense.
that's operational.
Well, I mean, if you spend
I'd like to
$20,000
get the
on new
bus
pumps,
shelters
then
to
maybe it's a
check.
capital expense. I don't
Just
know
in
if
case,
it's
I
that clear.
think we talked about that and I thought we put it in, but can we double check and if not, add it? I think it's in, but I'm not sure.
Okay, in the budget.
The recycling bins are in and those things.
What? I don't know exactly what we're doing with the recycling bins. What that?
They all need to be replaced. The rusting out
Okay,
and
that's what
leaking.
I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
Kurt.
found a cheaper price.
Kurt said that there were ones that were $600 as opposed to $1,000,
in your worksheets
and that
you'll
they're
see
nice
four-
and wrought
yeah.
iron and all that.
In your
Okay.
worksheets, you'll see 4 garbage bins at $1,000 each. I
Okay.
talked to the police. Said, "Well, no, we're gonna get more than that. We just didn't bother changing the number of papers per unit. So we're gonna get more than 4 bins for $4,000. So.
Right, exactly. That
In
makes
And it
Yes.
sense.
has some in this current budget too.
Yeah, those are the 4. Yeah, $4,000 was the garbage bins.
In the budget that we're in right now,
Yep.
this fiscal year.
Oh yeah.
The ENC did not spend any money this year. That goes to the fund balance, but we budgeted for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, all the boards and commissions got basic staff support and
Except the Shade Tree, which did a good job of doing their budget request and they got rewarded.
Yeah, I noticed also that tenant landlord was under executive.
we don't have a budget line. Just
It falls under the mayor's line.
Okay.
it's for accounting purposes for Nancy.
But that reminds me,
I just
There isn't a true,
it
Where
did
did we
make.
put
I thought it would be
that?
under community
no,
development.
Yes.
it falls under the
Hmm?
mayor's line.
we don't have a separate line for
Is the
that.
housing board the same, or do we have a separate
No, we
line?
have a separate line for the housing board.
Yeah, we do,
It
okay.
depends what the state, what the controller issues the numbers for, right? Yeah.
Also, sidewalk improvements. There's nothing. There's been nothing. There is.
We have a
nothing on
sidewalk
that.
reserve fund of
We don't have
$25,000,
to create it.
22,000.
so we don't need to create anything.
Okay, so where is that?
You won't
located?
see that. It's in a.
Oh, because it's
control
in. Okay.
account, not a
Now you
budgetary.
could ask for part of the fund balance to be put in there. That is the board's
And-
right.
Or an annual
Well,
contribution.
so
or
an
well,
something.
annual
that's the
contribution.
thing. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Is an annual contribution. Because back in 2006, when the transportation implementation study was accepted by the village board, one of the priorities was that we would annually put money into a fund specifically for sidewalks. And we have a sidewalk master plan that is now 5 years old and has not been implemented almost at all.
Because they're
So-
looking for grants at one time, like 3
But-
years ago?
Even if we get
Well, I was
grants,
told
we're gonna
last
have
year
to
that
have
there
some
were no,
support.
by you, that there were no grants for these kinds of things at the moment.
Kind of
Now,
shrinking
now
grants,
we've got this, safer routes to schools opportunity, so that's a potential sidewalk grant. But I think, if we're not just looking at it for grants, and more than that, because the village board formally had said we should make this a priority and put every single year money in this fund. I think it's important. Otherwise, how are we ever going to do these sidewalk improvements?
Well, the question is almost this
Because
fund.
it's expensive,
Oh, yeah, this
and we
fund
need to
is-
do it annually.
It's almost
you know?
like it's much like the fire department equipment reserve fund, where both of them are we can put in things annually, but the price is so expensive. I mean, fire truck is $1 million plus, so we're gonna bond anyway. But sidewalks, when we think about the cost of the last one we applied for, which is from Plattekill up to the
right.
paying $500,000 for just a street, if we're putting in 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, it's like.
Well, it's got to be more than that.
That's but can we afford to put in 10, 20, 30,000 a year to actually make it? Because that's the thing is this may be a thing where we use a reserve not to pay cash in hand for sidewalk projects, but to leverage it to get to hire a grant writer who can find the grants that are harder to find.
Well,
I don't know.
so my question then would be,
The
can
sidewalks is the
we
question.
annually put money into that reserve
Yes.
fund?
Sure.
So then why don't we do that?
We
It
can.
doesn't have to be the sidewalk improvements line. It could be putting, $30,000 every year into the sidewalk reserve fund, and in 4 years we can do a whole street or something like that.
But that's the thing, we
because
couldn't
this is
after
one of
4
the
years.
biggest. This is one of the biggest complaints that I hear
120
about.
4
in
years ago
terms
is-
of like people's quality of life and being able to have mobility around our community. This is a huge issue. Like people love, the DPW fixed that right by on Wirtz Avenue. They fixed the broken stone that's on the side of that parking lot, and the sidewalk was replaced there. And people are like, "This is fantastic," because it was a terrible sidewalk before. So I think having that kind of feedback from the community, people think, we have these terrible broken sidewalks, what are my tax dollars going towards? So I think that this is a huge visual in terms of what we're doing with tax money.
Maybe we ought
Weren't you
to
talking about doing something
spend,
with sidewalks, buying the machines?
Yeah.
That was
maybe,
a very good idea.
We could
I don't know
use
if that's
the reserve fund for something like that.
Yeah.
I don't care as long as we get sidewalk money for sidewalks.
but I'm gonna
in there.
suggest that we put this on the April workshop agenda. Jason has a terrific idea that he was talking with me and Nancy about, of perhaps
It was a
applying
grant.
for an empowerment grant from New York State that would be the school district and the college and whoever else we can find to buy a machine that creates sidewalks. The
I have
other
no problem with
possibility
that.
that we might want to explore is to go halvesies with people. We'll go half
Or
in putting
thirdsies.
sidewalks.
Or quartersies, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
so, I mean, I think
Good
it's,
idea.
it's something
Yeah.
we really
That
have to.
doesn't
So,
bother me at
it-
all.
it wasn't-
My big issue
Yeah.
is that I saw no money in the sidewalk improvement line, and the liaison to both Transportation Implementation and Bicycle Pedestrian Committee,
But we-
and for good reason.
We
I
can do
only
it one
walk.
of two ways. We can either, at the end of the year, designate some of the fund balance to be put over to the
Yeah.
sidewalk
I
reserve.
like that idea.
I like that idea too.
Or we could budget it for that purpose.
Yeah.
Which way
Or
you-
if it's a $200,000-$300,000 project, you can go out and do a ban for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the line, and that's why it wasn't left out. I read your email, so it was there. But when Nancy was telling us how much we had in the sidewalk reserve, it's like, all right, 22,000. That's enough for our match for a grant or two, or this and that. So I figured it'd come up in the conversation. But I'm sorry, I should give you a heads up ahead of time.
Well,
we
that's
may
part of
not
why,
put it
like,
in reserve,
if
as
we went
Nancy
through
said.
the budget line by line,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
That's fair.
on
We can do
the
that, yeah.
on the defense of the sidewalk
No,
fund. I would
because this is
understand
good.
your thought process.
This is
behind
exactly
it.
what I was hoping would happen, because now we've got the big chunks of conversation kind of listed. So now we all know what we're going into next week
But
when
I
we go into
think
the
the
details.
sidewalks should be a separate workshop discussion and not a budgetary discussion, in my own opinion.
Why?
But-
Because it's budget neutral since we can do it either way.
And because it may be that we want to go on bond anticipation notes, as
Right.
Nancy said, so we have that avenue.
I mean, I think to be honest, because we don't know what path we're going to take, we should pick whatever number it's going to be, and that's what we're gonna commit to annually.
move forward.
And if we move forward, and we can move forward with that, and if we also move forward with the grant, then we'll have funding for that, and then we can do it that way. But you know, what if we don't get the grant, or what if we don't end up applying for it, or what if the grant doesn't exist? You know, we don't. That's a really, you know, volatile kind of thing that is unpredictable. So we should have our own backs covered, knowing that we are funding this.
It may be that bond anticipation notes are the best way to go in that
Right.
in that instance, and then we have to decide our priorities. We still are under a promissory note to the Huguenot Historical Society. How many years ago were they promised sidewalk repairs?
2006.
Right.
Okay, so I think you are right.
Yeah, that's exactly the stuff I'm thinking about in terms of that. And I guess I don't know if bus shelters would be in the line right after that for bus operations.
Well, she's gonna check and
Okay.
we'll deal with that.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I have not been able to go through this whole thing.
It's not your fault. Like I said in the email, just to say publicly, I meant to have
I
this
know
paper
it's
on
not my
Friday.
fault.
I know, but I'm fessing up to it is all I'm saying. So I don't want people to think that you didn't do your due diligence. It's because I didn't get this to the trustees till yesterday because I was dealing with the last minute changes over the
It's
weekend.
okay.
Was it today? I
The
emailed it
worksheets
yesterday.
went to them today.
Yeah.
The worksheets went out today.
Oh, the worksheet's not today. Okay.
The other thing
Yeah.
that Jason and I have talked about, but I don't think we have done anything about yet, is hopefully putting our engineers on a retainer.
Yeah, I have a.
That was on my list.
I have an email
Bring your
today.
letters,
He's drafting up a proposal for us.
Okay, good.
So,
Speaking of proposals, have you been in touch with Blue about the sidewalk snow removal RFP?
Yeah, we're gonna.
You're working on it? Okay.
By next week, I hope to have.
Yeah.
I hope to have something.
do we have any budgetary impact or?
I mean, the thing is that we would put it out for
Right.
bid, and we would, and you know, one of the things that we talked about, and I was glad Nancy was in the room for the conversation, but it was myself and Kurt and Blue and Nick and Kathy and Nancy, talking about just the idea of how it's kind of a slow time for a lot of contractors, and we could probably get a pretty good offer on sidewalk snow removal. The devil will be in the details, and that's part of why Blue generously offered to sit with Joe and go through all those nuances that I probably have no idea about. You know, I could list a couple, but that would be it. And they, you know, because we clear 2,400 feet of sidewalk at present, you know, and depending on the size of the storm and depending on the sidewalks, these are totally interconnected things, because they said, you know, sidewalks that are well done, you know, they could just go through it with a tractor and it would be pretty easy, you know, to plow it that way. But if, you know, the sidewalks like that are kind of like crooked teeth, we're gonna have to take a shovel too. So, and that the easiest way would probably be to contract this out. And I don't know if all of you saw the email, but I had once gotten a snow removal fine one winter for $179. There was one time that we didn't remove the snow, and if you multiply that by how many residences are in the community, it would be, you know, $450,000. And I highly doubt it's gonna be that much money to remove the snow, but I don't actually know. So, you know, if the community is willing to pay that price, which would be the same as having this one-time fee for not shoveling, then they never have to worry about shoveling again.
If you use a snow blower on a tractor, you don't have to worry about the crooked sidewalk.
Right.
You know, the way you pay for that is how? I mean, we going into the tax base and go against your 2% and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, it would be the same way. I mean, it would be a line item basically. It would probably be under snow removal contractual expense. Is how it would
It'd be
go.
under Blue's department, and just
Right.
like as
Yeah.
routine as plowing the streets.
Exactly, but I mean, we figure, you know, even if we decide not to go with this, I have told people in the community, and we've gotten a lot of complaints, that we are going to do our due diligence and find out what the numbers are. If we decide that that is a way too high number and we don't want to do it, then that's the answer we have
Or
for
if you
people.
decide that it doesn't fit under your contingencies and your ability to do it this year, you still will have gathered enough information to take it into account next year.
It won't be covered by contingency, that's why we need a
Right, I mean, you don't have to
estimate.
put it
Right,
in effect
exactly.
right now.
But and you know, and it's like snow removal in general, where we don't know how much it's gonna snow.
Right.
That's
you know,
awesome.
so it could be like, you know, every time it snows, this is how much it costs depending on the footage. But you know, it's kind of an unpredictable number. But we figure we'll put this out there. We'll see what we get back, and obviously the sooner the better, because then we can budget for it.
But they've gone out, you just haven't gotten them back.
No.
No, we have to
they're working on the
establish
RFP.
the parameters
So,
of
so
the
that's part
RFP.
of why it's actually on our agenda tonight to
Right.
approve sending that out. And I don't know if people are comfortable with doing that without it in front of them, but maybe we can table that for next week. But that's up to the board, obviously.
Well,
I'm
we can
just
talk about
bringing
that when
all
we
this
get
to you guys. Yeah, those from what I've gone through so far, those were my main budget items. I'm sure that there are more after I get past page 8.
I had a couple other things. Have we figured in here what we proposed, what we expect the increase in health insurance costs and all
Yeah.
to be?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have the numbers in there, what they currently are right now with the increase, and then I put in a 12% for next year.
Okay.
And that includes increases in insurance, medical, pensions across the board. Anything that we have.
You wanna be shocked?
And of course, we don't know, no, I don't want to be shocked.
Then don't ask the question.
Well, last
No,
year,
I already am aware of that.
last year, the estimation came in for the retirement of like 144,000 from New York State. My actual bill came in as 182,000.
Right, so I'm just hoping that we're allowing enough for that. Plus, we're also into starting negotiations, so I don't know how that'll affect anything. But also on the consolidation, if they're putting in for a grant for certain expenses, I know in the outreach committee there was a suggestion that whenever there's a final proposal that, or it's about to be a final proposal, that there be a printed report or booklet of some kind, similar to what the school board might have sent out on some of its big projects. And that would at a minimum be a printing cost, and I don't, if that's not gonna happen by May, then you know, the village and the town would split that cost to do that.
Well, we're not looking to have it by May, so we're talking about next year's budget
So I
for
think there,
November.
now I think that you should put a number in there for you know, printing materials, and then if
Do you have a
doesn't-
budget to propose?
Well, no, because, well, I know, I would suggest $10,000 to be put in there, and I think that could be two different items from the printing costs we got earlier, but until we have something specific, we
Five
can't
for-
ask.
5 being our share?
Yes,
All right,
but
so
that's just calling a few printers and not knowing the extent of what we would be doing. We're gonna, you know, for planning purposes, I would say $10,000, of which 5 would come from the town and 5 from the
What is it that
village.
we're printing now?
Probably 2 little explanation booklets about this is gonna be what you're voting on, and these are the particulars and all of that.
Well, couldn't we include that in the grant application that we're applying for? That's
I think you
I think
you
it should be a separate.
I think you can, but I mean, you're not saying you're necessarily gonna get it either, and whether it's I mean, I can't imagine there's not gonna be some expenses that are gonna be borne by the municipality.
That's, all right, so
Well, remember, too,
Same,
that we
same
can-
as these professionals that you're
if we need to
having.
send out mailings, we can always do those in house. We do it all the time. We also remember have gotten well, actually, you wouldn't necessarily know, but one of the requests that was in the budget that we pushed into this fiscal year was a large format printer for the planning department, so they can print out these kind of maps without having to pay for them when they go to the county. And since that's offset, we had a bunch of things that were offset by 75%. That's sort of grant. So we can print maps, we can print charts, we can print pardon me.
So if it's like an
like mailings.
4 or 8 page publication that's gonna go to everyone, if we can do it in-house, fine, but I don't. If we
That's a
can't-
few $100. It shouldn't be that much.
Well, a printing such as the one for the school board is like
That's
$3,700
done by
bucks.
BOCES.
And even starting with BOCES, that they don't do it in, you know, that's a
No, and you have to
contract
do the
job.
layout and all
So
that.
it's, you know, that was the last one that I talked to him about was $3,700. So I think we should consider a number in there rather than have to take it out of the contingencies, because there's only
Well,
so
then
many
you wanna
things.
jack the 30,000 I proposed to 35.
That would be fine. I'm just suggesting that it be considered. No, that's it. I obviously have to
Yeah.
read.
So,
Did we budget for the projector for the like a?
We're buying that this year.
We're gonna buy it this year.
Before
Yeah.
June, yes.
Okay.
Because that
It's
fits the
another-
necessary
It
requirements.
does.
We're only paying 25% of the sticker price for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Would and is that's to be used for any
for
freebies?
whatever. I guess we're
Whatever
kind of keeping the
wants
post
to-
office, whatever, we can sign it out.
Okay, yeah,
If-
because HPC was.
You know,
Yeah.
along, that's the projector we're gonna use here.
Yeah, we would
Same
use
thing.
it
And
for
a
these
screen
meetings.
and
Yeah.
plug in your computer and all that and actually,
Be able to have real
Something modern.
presentations.
Yeah.
Maybe?
while we're talking about our spaces, it probably wouldn't take much money, maybe it can be done in-house, but like the lobby here and the stair treads, you know, it looks like World War II out there. I mean, it shouldn't cost that much, but I think we ought
Right,
to
those pillboxes out there.
we ought to, yeah, we ought to take care of that.
the other thing that I think we ought to consider, but we don't have any figures for, and we need to get an estimate, is to live wire this room. So that you just flip a switch and we're on.
I like that.
I mean, the only issue with that is, you know, we don't have someone doing the zoom ins and the panning the camera, but. I,
Who needs to be panned?
well,
Especially when
I
we're
saw a
blowing our
complaint-
noses.
I saw a complaint recently about the school board have cameras in the way back, and you can't really make out people. I mean, we do have the benefit of, but I agree that would be an interesting something to look at.
And I,
Well, it'd be great for
Other
meetings that are
committees.
exactly.
well, we
Yeah.
wanna cover all of our meetings,
Yeah.
planning board, ZBA,
Anyone else?
us, we have 3. I would think some of our committees might wanna
Sure.
be, you know, public
Who doesn't wanna
access,
be on
wants to
camera?
be on public access. And so I just think we ought to ask Bob or whoever about the estimated cost.
Yeah.
I mean, the community center is live wired. And I think, or was supposed to be. I
Was
take
supposed
that.
to be. It
It
didn't.
was
it didn't
supposed to, it
happen.
didn't happen. And the
Right.
estimate for the community center, I believe, was $9,000.
That's not
Yeah.
terrible.
Exactly what
And
you're talking
we're
about.
not talking about a whole lot of space here.
No.
This is where we can flip a switch
I
and
agree.
just come on.
So I think it would be worth
So any-
looking into and putting in next year's budget.
I'm sorry, I have 2 more things as well.
Yeah, I'll take note.
Okay.
Do we agree on investigating lot?
I would think it's. I
I
think it's
think
worth
it's
an
worth looking into
investigation.
for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You already talked about the website.
And I don't know if
Yeah.
maybe Jason needs to answer some of these, but Nancy can probably speak to it. But parks and actually, what does it say? Something recreation, culture and recreation for parks. Does equipment on the parks line include improvements like swings?
Blue has
Yeah,
some stuff in there for swings.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
cool.
because it really,
I know. There's only
mean-
one swing. What if I want to go with my friends?
well, my grandchildren wanted to go
Or
this
stack each
weekend and they couldn't. And so I think we really have to, I mean, we have
But
been,
in defense of Blue's area, that playground takes some massive
yeah.
abuse.
they
Oh
ripped them
yeah.
out.
Well, there's also I know we're still waiting on the drainage project, and I don't know exactly where that's going to go, but I know that area where the swings are gets very wet and muddy.
Right.
So I don't know. Actually, does anybody know where
The
the?
last I knew, something with the historical or something.
Yeah. I think they were waiting because of the drainage project to replace the
Yeah,
equipment.
I think that's what I had known
Yeah.
also is that they were waiting to do some improvements till after the drainage project was completed.
When's it
Right,
beginning?
but didn't Rich say they ran into some problems with digging into the soil.
Really?
I think so.
We'll have to wait for Jason.
Yeah,
I don't
he might have
know.
all the details. I just overheard the conversation.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe I'll ask my other question. We can get back to that. I was just wondering what exactly celebrations is for. Is that like the hanging flower baskets? Okay.
And in answer to your Easy Pass question, I don't think we're gonna be able to do that.
I didn't
but-
think we'd be able to do that
Yeah,
now.
you and I have to do more work on that.
Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, there are to fill you guys in on what that means. You know. Oh, okay. Do you know? I'll tell you. I'll just go into it.
let
The
you know.
idea that our municipal parking lot could possibly have instead of the parking machine that we have right now, we were looking at. You
The
know, we
possibility.
didn't look into it in detail, but we had talked about the idea of having a machine that takes cards as well as cash, and also the idea of having some kind of archway with an Easy Pass detector. I don't know.
And that's part of your parking plan.
Huh?
It's part of the parking plan that we're gonna bring
Yeah,
all
yeah.
together.
So
Yeah.
Ariana and I have more work to do.
We're just looking into what is the best way to install and maintain something, and if it's something that Easy Pass would install and maintain, or whoever controls that, then that would be a really good thing because we wouldn't have to have the expense of
But apparently they
maintenance
don't like to
and
do
updating things.
municipal parking lots like that.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine it.
So-
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of, the only reason I brought it up is because I've heard of scenarios where they have.
Well, I'm hoping we can find a company that has a connection with Easy Pass
Right,
and go
exactly.
that way.
Maybe that's how it's done.
But
And celebrations is for like the regatta and things like that.
Okay.
That's what that line is.
What is so like when the regatta collects money, it goes into that?
No, that's its own fund.
Okay,
This
that's
is
what I
just
thought.
for DPW.
Oh, okay, all right. To be able to
Regatta or
assist
anything
with
else
that.
that's going on that.
everyone has a
That's
question
village's
of what the
sponsor.
problem
Okay.
is
Cool.
with
Community
our drainage
beautification
in
facility.
Haskell Park. Rich
Right,
said
right.
something
Okay,
about
well, so
soil.
then that would be the hanging flower basket.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we're doing a
This
whole
might be
engineering
Cool Waters
project.
though?
No, Nancy,
For what, the
Is that part of-
celebration?
Yeah. Is that part of Who Waters though? Because, oh no, okay, there's personnel services under
Yeah,
community
it's
beautification.
basically personnel, that's all it is, and then like Johnny on the spot for the regatta.
Okay.
okay, we were talking about the playground, and yes, there is money in for new equipment, but the new equipment, as I understand it, Blue doesn't want to do until the drainage park project is done. And Nancy said that there was a problem with,
Well, I don't know if there was a problem, but wasn't there something with us doing the project over there with the digging or something? Something historical or something? Did
Well, we've
Rich-
been doing the archaeological testings, but those I think are done by now.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't know.
No, all of our OCR stuff is done for that park.
Do we know what
Okay.
the time frame is on using that grant money?
You mean when we have to do it, or when we will be doing it?
When do we have to use it by
I think
in
in
order
this
not
ye-
to lose
I think
it?
end of this year, but we'll be good because we'll be done spring, summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured obviously over the winter.
We got time.
it's a
We do
project
have
we're
another
working on.
grant that's a little bit tighter with the USDA loan that we have to abandon, but
Okay. And I haven't looked at this at all yet, but flood and erosion control. It seems to me that maybe we should think about putting money in that, considering
We're paying a lot of money right now for flood insurance.
flood insurance. Well, what about rain gardens?
what line is flood and erosion control? in?
We've
Um,
never put anything in it.
A8745.
We've never put in. But what's it? Because those.
I mean,
'cause-
it's yeah.
'cause
line in
the
previous
descriptions
years.
can be deceptive.
Yeah, I'm
What
not really
does that
sure.
mean?
Okay.
What would
It could be
use it for.
permitting for all we know, because I know
Yeah.
like the building inspector does like erosion control permit like for new construction sites
Okay.
for silt fencing and stuff.
Right.
So we should check to make sure it's not as exciting as we think it is. Yeah.
As soon as you said silk fencing, it does
Yeah.
make sense. I part of why I ask is because I have an intern this summer who is an environmental geochemical science major. Yeah, I don't know anything about what he's going to be doing, but there's a professor on campus who knows all about it. But part of what he's actually doing, it's not crazy stuff that we can't understand. He's going to be just looking at areas that flood that could use rain gardens and what the proper soil amendment type would be to mitigate the flooding in those areas. And he was originally going to do it just on campus, and when I got involved, he's now going to do it throughout the village as well. So that's part of one of the things we're working on. And I was thinking, well, it would be great if we could budget for some of that stuff, but I didn't think of it until I saw that budget line. So this is also something that we could collect the data and budget for next year.
Is there someone, Nancy, is there someone?
Or apply for grants
like,
for it.
I don't know,
for next
do you
year.
know online or something that we could find out what these codes mean?
I have the manual.
Yeah, that way we can, if there's something we can just Google, like if we think of something, we can just find out on our own too. Because if it's not that one around, there's got to be another one that would fit that project.
Right. I mean, it might be under
It could
something.
be the environment for all, environmental.
Right. It could be
commission.
something more specific under the DPW department. So
Yeah.
okay.
Mike, I
Did we
suggest
put
that
in-
people who want a line-by-line review have a afternoon meeting with you and Nancy.
Wouldn't it behoove the public to
Mhm.
be able to watch that?
Pardon?
I think it would be good for the public
Did
to
you
be
say
able to
behoove?
watch that. I
She
did.
did.
No, I appreciate it. Good. Thanks.
Yeah.
You don't hear that word enough.
Great work.
I don't think,
I'd be happy to do it either.
I don't
at
think
some-
the public needs the review, Ariana. I think if board members need it, that's something else again.
Okay.
Okay?
I'd be happy either way.
I think
Yeah.
I like the transparency piece.
We could do both. We could, because we can get the review to get up and then have the kind of policy discussion. I don't know. We can figure it out. But
I mean,
if at least we could agree that we have
both
the
ways in the past.
yeah. If we have the line,
line for line, here until like 3 or 4 in the morning.
why don't we do?
Everybody stops
yeah.
and talks about things
Right,
because
right, right.
like nobody, you just got your sheets today, so you didn't have a chance to go through them.
right, exactly.
So if we did a line by line next Wednesday, in the interim week, anyone who wanted to could. I mean, I'm happy to meet with anybody and Nancy. That way, if you want to, they can.
I
If
get a lot of
not,
people that come in maybe.
if not, we can just do it all again. Because in a week, you'll have at least a chance to review the sheets. If you feel like you need to have a face-to-face before next Wednesday, we can do it. If not, we can just do it then. It wouldn't be a 4 a.m. conversation then. Because we'd all be up to speed at the same pace next
I
Wednesday.
think this is what you might want to review next Wednesday for the public. The summary sheets. Okay? But for board members, knowing what goes into street cleaning, say,
Right.
and what 0.01 and 1.02 and 0.04 means, that's not something the public needs. That's something
Right.
Board
Well, I
members.
guess
And you know what
I mean, it's also things like flood and erosion is a perfect example where we don't know exactly what that, because we don't usually budget in that line. We don't know exactly what that covers. So I think that would be a
that's
helpful.
why I think the worksheet.
Blue might know if he was here.
Yeah.
If you invited Blue to go over his worksheets, he might be able to tell you, or if you talk to him, he would tell you
You know,
exactly what it is.
I think the worksheets, which I know people didn't have a chance to look at, are really pretty.
They're pretty explanatory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
well,
think-
well, as I started going through it,
Yeah.
anything I had questions about mostly
so
were
I-
answered by the worksheets.
I mean, I would suggest we do both worlds.
It's up to you.
I think for the board, they, want to meet with Nancy and Jason during the week and Blue too, if it's needed, and find out what's in here. And then next week,
Good night, y'all. Thanks.
publicly
Thanks for
review.
staying.
Good
Good
night.
night.
We publicly review the summary so that the community understands the cap amounts in each category. And I think
Okay.
that would be meaningful. But I don't think they care too much about how many hours of street cleaning we're gonna do. We care.
I guess I can't fathom not caring.
Anyway, all right.
And the public can come in anytime. I have my book right there,
Okay.
which I do have a lot of people that come in every year.
I bet you.
I do.
I know.
And I'm
Surprise
always,
me.
I mean, it's nice because
Yeah.
I really care, but it's amazing how many people.
Yeah, New Paltz is the kind of place that looks into things in depth.
Yeah, they do.
We've got a lot of people that are like that. It's
I'm
good.
gonna move that we set the hearing for.
Wait, Brian had a question.
Oh, Brian's still
Or
with.
a comment.
done.
Jump all over me.
You need to raise your chair.
I'm
Short chair,
slow.
Someday we'll give you the big chair.
You better do it soon. Candy. Software updates.
What about it?
Is there cash in there somewhere for it?
You mean other than normal upgrades?
Yeah, like I mean any of the Microsoft stuff we're using, or possible upgrades, or any software we might want to purchase, or possibly.
I mean, we have the licenses that whatever
For all
fees
the
we pay.
standard
Yeah.
upgrades
Okay.
that I do with our financial questions.
Okay.
But if there's anything you want to put in there that moves,
Yeah, there's
but
like
there
new
is some
software or
hardware.
more elaborate software.
Right.
If you can get me prices on something and get it, you know,
well,
run
I
by the
got
department.
prices on KBS, which was a lot higher than we anticipated.
KBS is the financial software that you were thinking on
Mhm.
switching over to,
Mhm.
and that's not likely
I
this
don't
year.
think it's feasible at this time, not when you're spending all this money on the studies and everything, and, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what did it come? Was it even more?
It was
than
over
that?
50,000.
Yeah.
We just spent almost 100,000 in 2008,
Yeah.
so,
To get it
Yeah.
off of KBS to Incode.
well, to
Right.
switch over to Encode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Okay.
It just, to me, doesn't make sense to.
Yeah.
Was there anything, other things in specific, in particular you were thinking of?
I don't know. Well, we never upgraded the trustee's office
It
computer.
is,
I don't know.
that's it.
That's in for this
New
year.
computers in for the trustee's office, for the mayor and
The
the
mayor's
fire
office too.
department,
Okay.
right?
Good.
Yeah.
So I
The
don't.
mayor-
mayor's
fire
getting his
department.
computer this year.
Huh?
The mayor's getting his computer
Yeah,
this
both
year.
are. Trustees and the mayor, and I think the fire department, and Blue's getting the old one from your office or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
While we're
So-
getting all high tech, how do we feel about iPad for the building department?
We're getting 5 of them for the fire department in this budget, or in this fiscal year.
I heard
What's,
about that.
what's the, why, because they could use it out on site more easily to stay.
Totally, yeah. It's like you could, if you have a property, you could, film the whole thing and then show it to, other people in the building department or have it for the record or, it really, it creates a whole different kind of filing system.
Did they request it?
Probably, no.
No.
Well, I don't think that it has to be requested. I think
It
it's more
certainly
like,
does. A budgetary issue is a budgetary issue, and all departments were supposed to give their requests.
I know, but I think it's more about us thinking about, moving forward in a technological world.
I think they are pretty techy down there. I would think they would have asked for it.
I don't know.
You don't
Well,
think?
I'll talk to Kathy and Holly, see what they think.
Well, and Kurt.
And Kurt.
I mean, one that has a camera on it that they could take pictures
Well,
right
they
as
have
they're
phones too, don't
inspecting.
forget.
Huh?
We have phones. They have village phones.
They have the phones that,
What are they? What kind of phone?
Yeah, we upgrade them whenever.
and they can
They're
text
pretty
on
nice
those.
phones, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
All right, don't laugh at me.
You feel grandmotherly, Sally?
We all know I am not the tech queen.
They have access to the worldwide interweb on those phones, and
That's right. I make sure myself when I have those curly cords on it.
Oh, good, I'm glad. All right.
Well, I think we
Anyway,
got a good set. I mean, there might be some other things here and there, a couple hundred, a couple thousand, but I think we got a good list of
things.
things that are possibilities to add in or switch around in this budget.
I think we have a question from the audience.
Yes?
Okay, this is going to be
We
really
don't.
off topic. Is there anything the village is doing for veterans at all in the budget or anything like that?
We generally don't. There are veteran services paid for by the town, the surrounding 40 miles. And the only veteran services agents, the VFW is down outside the village, so they generally tend to deal with the municipalities surrounding us. But that's about it. Why that?
Yeah, I'm curious to know why you asked.
Well, we just did a project on creating our own special interest group, and one of our things was to ask a public meeting about what different people think about veterans or what they do for the veterans. Or my special interest group was veterans, so that's what I was asking.
Well, what would you suggest?
That was gonna be my question.
Sorry, I beat you to it.
Either starting groups or some kind of place where veterans can talk about their experiences and stuff. Obviously, we have the American Legion and the VFW, but that's more focused towards older veterans and stuff. And we really have groups for the younger veterans to interact and talk. And there's a high rate of post-traumatic stress disorder and suicides and stuff. And talking to other veterans is a good way to relieve those symptoms and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big issue to bring up.
Yeah.
Isn't
It's a really
much
good
of that
point.
service
You're a
taken-
veteran, Stuart. What do you think? What services are out there?
Well, I think that a lot of these services are taken care of on the county level,
Yeah.
and so that people can go to the county government and they'll refer them to others, plus the veterans organizations have their own referrals too.
And they do
to
have tax
VFW.
exemptions.
Kids?
Actually, 2 of my godsons have served overseas, and both of them receive services specifically through the VA, and one of them is still active duty and receives services through the Army itself for symptoms like post-traumatic stress.
And you know, I wonder if the VA does outreach, because outreach workers probably not, I don't know.
Through their hospitals.
Is it?
There's one in Castle Point.
Well, thank you. But yeah, there's not much we can or have done historically. But it's not for lack of concern. So, well, there's never going to be enough services, but the county and the town do what they can.
Have you approached the family of New Paltz about this at all?
Not really. It wasn't. I mean, I was having like help veterans and stuff, but it's not really. I'm not going that far.
Okay. But because they provide a lot of different services, and I wouldn't be surprised if, they might not do it already, but it might be something that they'd be interested in incorporating, because I know that there are a lot of young veterans in our community, some of which really probably would benefit from this. Others, are maybe they're all right and they wouldn't attend these kinds of things, but I know others are involved in the VFW. Young people as well as older people.
Yeah. This VFW is remarkably age diverse.
There's a beautiful community center that could be used to hold some of these.
Yeah.
True.
But the family of New Paltz might,
And the town maintains the Veterans Cemetery. In the New Paltz Rural Cemetery, there is a designated place. And that is the town. We're, that through the A Fund, we support it too, but it is a town expenditure and required to be so.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Quick.
So yeah, is it alright with the? Does that seem like a decent plan to folks? Questions that come up between now and next Wednesday, either get in touch with me or Nancy or both, and we can answer them or meet in person. And then next Wednesday, we'll kind of be prepared to have a more thoroughly informed line by line conversation that would hopefully not be there till 3 a.m. kind of time frame.
My only question is, do we agree with those things being added if they're not in? And
Let's look at the. That's what I was hoping with that specifically, because why don't we talk about the whole list next Wednesday, and then we can weigh things a little bit better, rather than this thing definitely go in, but then we have something that later on that we want maybe think is a higher priority and.
But just keep in mind that about 25,000, I think, will raise you 1%.
Is that the number?
I think that's the
right,
number.
Nancy?
About 25,000.
25,000 is 1%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So keep that in mind.
Right. So that's we can kind of trace, or at least
You gotta
maybe
trade
spread things
funds.
out or space them out, or look, kind of put things where we need them.
And then
It's always good to know how much when you add, what the percentage is.
Right. I guess my only question, Sally and I were talking about this earlier, is when we set the public hearing on this, when we do it for a local law, we have to have all of the wording correct.
We can change.
This is not like that. Okay.
Yeah, it's different than
It's actually
other
spelled
laws.
out. The proposed spells out that we can change up to basically up to the last minute. But we have to have one public hearing in that time. In that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I do want to move to set the hearing per her resolution.
Nancy, have it.
Actually, the board can make any changes from now to March 31st. You can change the numbers up to that time.
Okay.
Of the tentative budget, and then you have your public hearing. So after March 31st, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Until your public hearing.
But then after the public hearing, you can
After your
change the
public hearing,
numbers.
then you can change
Yeah.
it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we when we set the public hearing, we're setting it for April 10th. So between now and the end of
Yes.
March, we can add and remove things, and then once
We should have most
that
of it
hits,
thought out.
We'll have the
Right.
meeting April 10th. We'll get public input, and then we can change it further.
Right. Exactly.
Calendar, sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Per your resolution, Kate.
Actually, all right, if you want,
Sure.
You can have it.
we can have. Actually, I have a copy of that, Katie. Or let's get make sure the board has a PDF of that.
I thought I sent everybody a copy of that on email a while ago.
You mean the calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah, she
I thought I
did.
did. Yeah.
You did.
Oh, okay, so we all have it, alright, good, so we'll just search for it.
So then I don't. I'll
No,
just,
take
I'll-
it. Or unless I can scan it in tomorrow and
Well,
resend
well,
it.
I'm sure I have it in my email then. Eventually. Just.
Anyway, do I have a
It doesn't
second?
matter.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any discussion on Sally's motion?
What was that motion?
That was the one I was
And
wondering.
hearing.
Send it to
Public
public
The
hearing.
public hearing
I'm
as
fine.
per the resolution.
Yeah, set a public hearing on the budget as per resolution.
Okay.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
I.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yes, and thank you, Nancy, for working so hard on this.
Yes.
Good job, well
Yeah, thanks
done.
for being here also.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Nancy likes coming to village board
I
meetings.
love
We should ask her to come all the time. I think.
Why don't we do the parking lot since
I don't mind
Nancy's here?
these times. I
I'll
don't
move
like
to
it till
approve the
2 or 3 in
lease
the morning. That's
for the village portion
Right.
of the
Well,
post office
You're
parking.
working on
I'll second that.
Oh, yeah.
Any discussion?
Sorry.
We're doing the post office parking lot.
Oh,
We
okay.
make about $10,000 in revenue a year and it costs us about $3,000, give or take.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the lease as written.
And the insurance is on the owner, right?
We have to carry the insurance,
Because I thought that it saw in the contract that the owner is
It's a cross insured, isn't it, Nancy?
indemnifying us, I thought it said.
It says in the contract, I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
But it actually with the
I don't
increase,
think
it's
we
gonna
have
cost us
full
about
contract.
$4,500 a year, but we're still
No.
I
bringing in
skimmed
like
it,
a
but
little.
nothing really stuck out.
I got liability and indemnification and the rent. So what we're doing is approving the lease,
Yeah, you're just, it's a
Yeah.
standard lease, it's what
Which
we've
is
had
what
every
I
year.
moved.
You looked it over, right,
Right.
Joe?
right? But it's a good thing for us to do.
All right. Any other discussion? Questions?
No, so each party has to keep $2 million insurance. so-
Yep.
Is that a fair provision? You think?
Oh, I think.
Well, it's never enough, but.
Yeah, but it's fairly standard
Is that standard?
in a commercial relationship.
All right. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
I didn't see any bus shelters.
Aye.
but-
And
You didn't see
I
him?
know.
Okay. All right.
Alright,
Thank
are
you.
you on?
Yes.
Executive session.
I knew it was gonna go.
Oh, no, you knew I would be. Not an issue.
Next week, because we all.
only I want to make sure. Nancy or Katie, do you happen to know if postponing the scoring of the RFPs for small cities till for a week is going to screw us up with the time frame?
We were just discussing this, I think we'd be okay to go 1 week out.
Okay.
Yep.
Any
We checked
objection?
before- We
Till
checked
April
before you
1st,
came in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
you
he
did.
probably has to do some paperwork on his end and get it filed or something. I haven't been involved in it, so I don't really know.
I mean, Katie could only open them today.
Yeah.
And I think, that they were only, the bid requests were only due yesterday, so it seems to me
Oh,
That-
that's true. That's true.
that we have some latitude.
So let's table that to the 27th.
Yeah,
Okay.
and number 3 we've
Can
done.
I ask a point of information about that? In our bids, did we ask them to say, to give us a set amount, what it would cost for the services? Or did we say that we can just take their hourly rate and whatever it is? Because it seems to me that we have some of each in there. We might quick look at it in 5 minutes.
We followed the RFP that was suggested by Small Cities, which I'd be happy to forward off to all of the board members. The information that Small Cities had us send out to everyone, in consideration of the grants. And it's actually not a bid, which is why we were able to open them this morning instead of here at the table in the regular bid process. The board has the ability to select, based on the criteria of the scoring sheet, whom they would think would be the best possible candidate, but you do not have to go with the lowest possible bid. You can base
So
it on,
do we have to use a scoring sheet at all?
yes, we absolutely have to use a
So we have to
scoring sheet.
score it, but it doesn't matter what score we give them.
Well, you would, of course, whoever you think.
Oh,
is
just not the low bid. The low
No,
bid, we
we
get the
don't
high
have
score.
to give the low bid.
The low bid, we
You
get the high
have to give it to the
score.
low bid. You
And I
have to
don't-
give it, you can consider their experience with small cities, any references that were provided, just as long as who you
And whether
who you
they're
feel
giving
is the
us
best
any
candidate
extras.
has the highest score.
There was a point system on the score sheet
Yeah.
that,
Okay.
you know, basically.
That's why I don't
You
think
can
we should
follow
do
the
it tonight,
rubric,
because I think we
essentially.
need to,
And I think that they're not all.
I agree.
It's not all apples and apples because some of them have just.
no, some are lemons.
Some are time and some are ranges, and so it's going to be interesting to try to compare them.
And even though we only have one RFP from someone to want to do the administrative position, we still have to score them even though there's only
We
one.
do, okay.
We do. We have to have it as a record when we're audited by small cities next year.
Okay.
But we did send them out to several. We just got
Absolutely.
one proposal back for them.
Absolutely. We have a record in the clerk's office. We were provided with a list of several people to specifically send out to, and we actually copied the envelopes as they were addressed to the people on those lists, so that we would be able to show the auditors next year that we made a diligent effort to contact specifically women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses. And we also kept a list of every person who called with an interest and requested a copy of our information. We took their information so that we would have it for the auditors.
All right, thank you. Well, this week is our workshop meeting and our village attorney's here. So I think to get him home, unless there's a reason not to, I'm going to go to executive session to get updates on our legal status.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. And we'll need you to stick around for till the end of this one. Thank you.
When my hair is down, it looks like I just have feathers
Well,
in my hair.
first I thought it was like having glasses on. Then I'm thinking-
Time is the actual motion.
What are you saying, Stuart?
You just
A
sounded like
motion
I
to
gotta say.
postpone to a particular time.
All right, 9:47 next Tuesday.
I'll stay with it.
What?
Well, Ariana, the next 2 years, I was making a joke that wasn't funny.
No,
Oh.
we're
The next 2 are yours too.
We
You
got
wanna?
Oh yeah, are we on? Yeah.
Yeah, we're on. We
yeah,
tabled
for
snow
the-
removal, so we're gonna.
Yeah, I'd like
Pilot
to
and composting.
make a motion to postpone the request for the RFP for sidewalk snow removal until March 27th, next Wednesday's meeting, when Joe Ariel will have had time to actually draft it and we can look at it before voting.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So this, in terms of the Park Point pilot, and I spoke with Sally about what to do because I thought it would behoove us. Now I'm gonna think about using that word
I think you should.
because you said it earlier. But I thought it would be good for us to issue a statement. The town board has discussed at length whether or not they think that a pilot is something that is viable for them to even be applying for, and I'm pretty sure they came to the conclusion of no, they should not be granted a pilot. The school board has weighed in on this, and I feel that the village board should weigh in on it. I had originally thought we should write a statement that we send to the IDA. Sally and I talked earlier, and she suggested that we send it to the town planning board as well as the town board, since the IDA has publicly said that they are looking to both the town board and town planning board to make their decision and base it upon what they say. So I think that we should just weigh in with them. I would be happy to draft this, but I wasn't going to draft
What's the
something.
deadline that we would need to?
I think it's pretty up in the air actually, because basically Park Point and Wilmerite, the whole developers have presented to the IDA. The IDA sent them back with many questions, and they said, "Why are you even here in front of us without certain answers to certain questions?" So I think that there's definitely a little bit of time, and they're supposed to have an official public hearing, and they were going to hold it in New Paltz for New Paltz residents. So I haven't heard any mention about when that date will be. So I think that we have a little bit of time, but if everybody is interested in making a statement, Kurt has certainly written enough about this that he would be able to speak to it. But I would be happy to either draft
we have
something
time
simple or draft something with him that's more in depth.
we have time for you to draft it and get it to us for next week's packet.
Yeah,
By
I mean,
Friday, is that, or does, that's why I asked, or does it matter that we, do you wanna do it next Wednesday?
I
or
think it's
when do you
important
want?
for us to do it next Wednesday just because otherwise it would be basically mid-April,
Right.
and I think that we shouldn't wait quite that long. But you know, we could also, and this is part of why I wanted to talk about it before I drafted it. If there was anything in particular people would like me to input, and I could do something pretty straightforward, like bullet points of our emergency services will be affected, and you know, traffic studies have only been done on like a Wednesday and a Thursday, and how will this impact weekend traffic, or like, you know, kind of like the more broad blanket statement things, or we can go into more depth because the DEIS makes no mention of, I mean, I've sat at town planning board meetings where the Park Point developers have said, we have no project without the pilot, we have no project without the pilot, we can't do it, it's not feasible, but the DEIS does not say that. So, you know, if we wanted to go in depth in those ways, I would need Kurt's help, and this is part of why I wanted to get feedback from
We
all
could do
of you.
both. I mean, one is, we got a short time frame. I mean, you know, in like 2 days, you know, just by next Wednesday, whatever, we have the simple version. And then you said there's a public hearing coming up anyway. By that public hearing, we can present like a more detailed
In-depth version.
and the in-depth version. And that gives you and Kurt like a couple weeks to
Right.
kind of
Well,
leisurely
I don't
pace.
think we would really need that much time.
But just, you never know, scheduling and
so
whatever
so
comes
why
up,
don't
you know.
I mean, if everyone is amenable to this, we can go with that plan, and why don't I talk with Kurt about what we can do for Friday?
That sounds great.
It's
yeah.
my understanding that IDA has told the town and the planning board that they would not consider it unless the town board and I don't know whether it's and or recommended the pilot. That's why I'm suggesting that our comments go
to
the
them.
town board and as opposed to granting the pilot.
I mean,
Even seeking
we
it.
also are, you know, representatives of an entity within the town, and at a public hearing, we could easily speak against it as, I mean, there have been groups forming surrounding this. I'm sure everybody's seen the signs all over town.
Well, the village had a position paper to begin with, which it rendered.
Right.
And I think
that was more general about the project.
Right, but
not
so now I
specifically
think
the
we have
pilot.
to render our view on the pilot.
Well, let's see what Ariana comes up with
Yeah,
for next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that all right?
I just have one question. Is the pilot the only issue that the village is interested in? Would that discussion include things like what you were speaking of with the fire chief about speaking to the project people to see if, because there's going to be such an impact, say, on our fire department, that there be a payment toward buying a piece of equipment or something because the fire company's going to be burdened? Is that all part of this, or is that separate?
The pilot, if you want to negotiate a pilot, then you're talking about what you're talking about. The question is, do we think a pilot should even be entertained? The notion, and some people say there should not be a pilot for that they should be fully taxable.
Well,
I think these are two separate
that's-
issues.
It's a parallel issue as far as I'm concerned.
I think it is a parallel issue, but I think they could be considered separate and apart, or together or separate rather. If there is a pilot, that is something that we would want included in that. What we're taking, the stance I would assume that we're all taking, but correct me if I'm wrong, is that we want no pilot. If we want no pilot, there might be contingencies upon which the town planning board can approve this, and one of those stipulations could be buying a new fire truck or something like that.
For what in trade?
For letting them build it. No, for letting them build it.
They can't do that.
No?
No.
Okay.
That's what the pilot is.
Well, no, but there are definitely things that can be negotiated based on cumulative adverse environmental impacts or something along those lines. But so, you know, I know that the town planning board is going to be sitting down, and this was based on what the police commission was talking about in terms of emergency services in general being impacted. Because the police were talking about it, and they said, why don't we include fire and rescue and have all of the emergency services sit down with the town planning board. Wilmerite is at every meeting, and so everybody could be at the same table talking about these issues, especially because things have changed since Wilmerite has put out their financial impact analysis. Now the town planning board put out an RFP to get an independent financial impact analysis done. They have not they have not reviewed the responses yet or hired a consultant as of yet, but that is a process that they're going through, and that once that happens, maybe we'll have a more real analysis. But in the meantime, the emergency services will be sitting down. So I think that conversation can still be had regardless of whether or not we are saying that they should not be granted a pilot. So, but I think that would not be a part of this letter.
Well, I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna
If that answers your
disagree,
question.
Ariana, because when you sit down with the ambulance, with the fire, with the police,
Right.
you are negotiating a pilot. And that's what Woodland Pond did. That's what the school district
No.
participated. Excuse me.
Well, what they're
And
doing is
I
not
don't
negotiating.
think you, the planning board, can say, we'll let you build contingent upon full taxes and giving this.
But when the emergency services sit down with them, what they're just talking about is the impact. They're not trying to negotiate a deal. They're just saying this is going to be the realistic impact on our department. It is what that conversation
Right.
I
is.
mean, the pilot payment is to give them a break on taxes because they're bringing a project and jobs and so forth. So that's a
Right.
tax issue. But if you have impacts even through the secret process, you're going to have huge impacts on the village and their infrastructure and the fire company. Then that could be addressed through that process.
But if you
It doesn't
can't,
have to be part of the pilot.
when you're fully taxable, that's covered. And what Ariana and I were talking about is, does the village board want to state its position that it is opposed to giving a pilot?
Yeah.
Then that means negotiations are off.
But that's not for us
But
anyway.
that's not what Ariana's saying. She is saying Wilmerite wants to know what the impacts are.
No.
Which
The
are-
town planning board and
Right.
the police department is where the
But
police
that's
commission is where this
unrelated
comes
to whether we want a pilot or not.
from. Right. That is a separate issue.
But it's a separate and parallel issue, but it's an
It is.
important issue that you don't want to say, well, we settle a pilot issue and we're done, because that we're not.
No, but I think in terms of what we're weighing in on right now is whether or not we believe that they should be granted a pilot.
Right.
If we want to weigh in on getting them to give money to the fire department separately, we can write a separate letter.
That's
And I would be, I mean, I brought these ideas to the planning board, and Tom Powers and I were discussing it. Obviously, Tim and I have been discussing a lot of these things. But, but if we want to weigh in on the pilot, that's the topic at hand. So do we want to do that? Should I draft the letter with Kurt?
I think we
Regarding
agreed to that actually, didn't
Well, I think you and I and Sally agreed, but I don't think Stuart and Brian agreed.
Yeah, I think there's issues such as with the fire department, which is the critical part to the village. I mean, as far as the village wouldn't get any taxes to begin with.
Right.
So it's not like we're saying, well, you should pay us our regular taxes because we don't get any taxes anyway. Our issue, other than the fact that we're part of the town, and we think the town shouldn't give them a break. I guess it's on that theory, but our issues are other infrastructure issues, and so.
So
I mean,
do
it's
you
nothing
not,
wrong.
do you not want her to write the letter, or
I-
you do want her to write the letter?
I mean, I'm in favor of her writing the letter, but I don't know if it would have that much impact because it's a tax issue and we're not getting any of the taxes to begin with.
Well, I think it would have an impact on what the town planning board and the town board do, and I think that they are on the same page as us anyway, but I think it would just give them more ammunition in their arsenal to say, and we got feedback from the village board who represents many people within the town municipality, and they also are in agreement with this because it's going to adversely impact them. And then if we want to weigh in, I mean, I'm planning on being at the town planning board meeting anyway, when the emergency services are there and being a part of that conversation. So I can weigh in on that separately, but I think that this would have a positive influence in terms of our tax dollars.
I'd like to suggest that the clerk draft the letter from the board to the planning board and the town board saying that the village board is opposed to a pilot being considered.
Well, we already have Ariana who knows the issues writing the letter. We don't need.
Yeah,
Katie's not up on
I
the
think
issue.
there's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. Actually.
Well,
Why?
Letter should not come from you.
Because your boyfriend's on the planning board in the town.
Is that why?
That's what she's saying.
Oh.
Yes.
That's what she's saying.
with the permission of the board, I can seek the assistance of Kurt in drafting the letter.
That's fine. Thank you, Katie.
That would be fine.
All right, so.
I get it. I understand. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, you actually probably need to
No,
recuse
I
yourself from
appreciate,
all point.
I'm glad you brought it up, and I think it's an important thing. I just don't want you put in a bad position.
I mean,
All right, so, well, we have that resolved. Katie and Kurt are gonna get us a letter, and we'll deal with that on the 27th, right? Is there anything else that we need to do on that?
no, that was really it.
All right, so you want to move on to number 5 then? You
Yeah,
because I wasn't sure I had no numbers, so I didn't know what you wanted to do with this.
Well, it's not. I'm asking if I should get numbers. Really, I mean, basically, what you sent out isn't exactly. I'm not looking to have a municipal hauling.
Oh, I know. It's
Compost.
both your policy and the one I'm sketching out. Both would at the end require this kind of facility. So I provided that to show some of the questions that go into.
Okay.
Do we need staff? What kind of equipment do we need? What kind of the permits of the land? All that kind of. I have notes on in that packet.
Well, a lot of that. I mean, you had the initial meeting with Jim Marion
Right.
and Laura and
I'm having a tough time
Chris
figuring
Yeager.
out. Yeah.
And from what I understood of that meeting, and this is why I wanted to just bring it to the village board, that all of those people were in favor of one of these greenhouses being turned into a compost site. I had a separate meeting with Blue, I think it was like last December, where he said that the main thing we needed was a forced aeration system. He said that Poughkeepsie has a good example of this, and essentially it's air that is blown into the greenhouse from the floor, and he said that we'd have to lay something different down anyway, because right now it's sand and sand would get mixed in, so we need a concrete pad, and that's generally what it is coupled with a forced aeration system anyway.
Could you have those figures for next week for a budget
I
discussion?
can, yeah, absolutely.
There's-
So that's I wasn't going to. If people for whatever reason were not in favor of doing this, then that would be a separate issue.
I don't know enough, but it
Um,
sounds like a good idea.
There's two
Well-
issues that I know of.
Well, can I
Oh,
just
sorry,
finish
no,
first?
please.
Blue said that we have a front end loader, which is what we would need to move compost.
And we have one.
Yes, that we had that the only equipment was that, and from what I know from your meeting with Chris and Laura and Jim Marion and Kimiko, that Chris Yeager said that the staff on site would be able to handle management of this. And I think it would be fairly minimal with this forced aeration system, which is the biggest thing. And then it would operate much like the town transfer station does. They have a compost site where it's really just trucked in from separate entities. They built the thing, they contracted with the campus has their compost brought there, and then Stop and Shop said, oh, there's composting, we want to do that too. And other places started saying that, but the town said we're at capacity. And the DEC has said that they cannot expand because they'd rather see multiple smaller sites than more larger facilities. So that's part of what is going on here. And I mean, basically we'd have to go through the official permitting process and get the prices for all of this, and then.
Will that take long or?
Well, hold on, because there's a couple of issues with the technology before you get to the question. Because I had some overlapping conversations with Ariana. One of the issues is the volume, because I know that's where I get stuck with the composting facility for the municipal hauling end, rather than what Ariana's working on, is that to make sure the cost, for the cost benefit, you need to know how much you're producing. So we don't want to dump it so much that existing staff couldn't do it, and we need to hire new staff unexpectedly. Though I did hear back from the DEC that the permitting wouldn't be an issue for that site. The problem is that Blue thought, I guess after your conversation, Blue thought of two issues that might be a problem. One is that we do occasionally need those greenhouses for overspill, for floods, or for something goes wrong with the sewer treatment plant. We need them as a backup. If the belt filter press breaks, we need those greenhouses to be able to dump the sewage sludge on, which isn't a problem when there's a reed bed or something that's porous. But he said the concrete bay would basically mean we wouldn't be able to do that because we need that. They function by draining the water out the bottom to dry out, to haul off. So if it's concrete, I don't know if that would work. And he had some very serious concern with the smell of compost piles. Again, depending on the volume, I don't know. So
I mean,
I don't know if those
sewer
are
treatment plants, so odor issues are already present.
But it's a matter of concentration because this plant doesn't smell. When we went on the tours, it doesn't smell when you walk in the gate. What smells is when we're unloading the belt filter press and it's the stuff without all the water, with the water squeezed out of it into the trucks. That's what smells. And I was just, what Blue was thinking was that, when you've got that same process, basically rotting vegetables, there's gonna be odor. And I don't know, they're not insurmountable obstacles. It's more she's done, but
odor issue is a matter of weighing out our values and whether or not we believe in the idea of composting.
Unless there's a way to do it with or without. That's the thing. It could be a technological
But I'm
difference
confused
with or
because
without.
Blue told you it could be done.
Oh, it can be done.
But Blue said to me that
There's
the only
problems with
issue
odor.
could be odor. That was the only issue he had brought
But
to me.
you're saying the cement floor and all
That's
that.
an issue.
That's not
He may have
something Blue.
He may have come up with it after he talked to Ariana. He was talking about that. Because I didn't understand why. Because my biggest thought was that, well, worst case scenario, we lose a batch of compost if we have to flood that greenhouse with sludge because of an emergency. It's just mixing the sludge with vegetable scraps. What's the big deal? And then it came that it became more complicated. So I guess I'm just not sure what you would put in the RFP right yet.
Well, I
Because I
mean,
don't know
basically
the
what I
con-
would find out is how much would it cost for a 40-foot by 100-foot, which is the size of the greenhouse. Because there would only be one of them, it wouldn't be both of them. Because one is currently used for sludge and two are for overflow. We'd still have one for overflow, and then we'd use one for compost. I'd basically find out how much it would cost to have a forced aeration system
And the
installed in there.
reed beds are gone, right?
No, they're still there, but they're at the end
But
of
they're
their
not
life.
doing anything.
They are, but they're at the end of their life.
Minimum.
Well, I thought one of them was more functioning than the other
We
two.
just had the one reed bed yet.
Right. So in where we would do this, there is not currently a reed bed. And
probably scrape that
what
out.
I would be finding out is the cost of a forced aeration system as well as the concrete pad. that
So
we
you'll have
deliver.
that next week?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Good.
As long as everybody wants me to proceed
Hey,
with that.
whatever.
I
If
do.
we can get the numbers on that, great.
Because it's budget.
Okay.
And just for everybody's, if you read the Freeman this morning, Ulster County Recovery has opened their compost.
Yeah, a compost facility.
And they're going to be selling it, so,
We could
Yeah.
be doing the same thing.
yeah.
And I mean, and this is just in addition, the forefront of technology in terms of removing food from the waste stream is to use anaerobic digesters to basically eat the foods. You grind it up into a slurry and you can put it in there. California has all these great studies and it produces, depending on the amount you put in and everything, they gave like, a 5-day, a 10-day, a 15-day, and the 10-day would be really great for producing methane. And I know right now we don't produce enough methane for it to be able to run the sewage treatment plant, but if we started doing that, we would be able to
And
produce
money.
enough methane to run the sewage treatment plant on. And because it is the forefront of technology, this is the kind of thing that NYSERDA gives grants for, and that,
Even if it's
and
not a
that,
budget thing, it's a
yeah,
proposal
this
ready
is
to
just
go,
kind
yeah.
of like what my next step in my research is going to be, is trying to get that done. Because if we can remove food from our waste stream in general, even if we're not turning it into compost and soil amendment that we could use for topsoil or sell, we could still remove it from the waste stream and reduce the cost of waste significantly. Because a lot of waste is done by weight, and food waste is mostly water, so it's the heaviest part of our waste. And that would be really, really cool. Yeah.
Great. So
I know,
just go ahead.
isn't it exciting?
I know. You guys are gonna have to
Alright.
share,
Science.
because I
Oh,
need
the
to
letter
give,
from
I
Dale.
need to give Katie a copy. Last night, Ulster County Legislature passed a resolution
Who are they?
asking that the Public Service Commission continue the Fortis Central Hudson hearings for 90 more days. Okay, and we don't have time to do our research, because I just got this afternoon. Kevin Cahill has written a letter, and I would just like the board to authorize the clerk to write a letter saying that the Village Board of New Paltz supports Kevin Cahill's request and Ulster County Legislature's request that the hearings be continued for 90 more days. This is, Fortis wants to buy Central Hudson. The period of comment is supposed to end on Friday, and so we don't have, the only thing I can think to do is for us just to ask that the clerk write to the Public Service Commission saying we support the action of the legislature and our assemblymen. And I will
Right.
move that.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Yeah, so
I want to read it.
your, this thing says at the top, that it's in opposition to the merger, so if we
That's,
say
if
we're,
you read the county's resolution, it's not opposition, they're asking for a 90-day extension.
certainly that makes sense, but I
Yes,
mean,
they are
it appears
asking-
that you're.
I know,
opposed
I
to it.
saw that too, and then I read it carefully. What they're asking is that the comment period be extended for 90 more days. And I think in light of our resolution on Monday, where we are really trying to seek alternative energy, and, given, well, Kevin, read it. Kevin, points out the trade problems and all sorts of things. So I think we ought to go on record as supporting the 90-day extension.
Right, as opposed to supporting this resolution, what we support is the 90-day extension, because it
Yes.
says more than one thing.
Yes, we're supporting the 90-day extension.
I'll go for that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to read this before we vote. I'm sorry. I'm in the third from the bottom, whereas.
I don't think some of the comments that were made, I'm not sure whether they are correct or not. And certainly we don't have the time to determine the validity of fact, but I do think we know enough that a 90-day extension for comment is appropriate.
So, the comment period is being held by.
The Public Service Commission.
Okay, alright,
So our letter is to them.
got it. So is there, in terms of being in opposition to the proposed merger itself, is there a way for us to stop that? If it.
That's not what I asked.
No,
and that's not my
I know,
motion.
this is, I know that's a separate thing, I'm asking. If
I
you
have no
know.
idea.
Only if the Public Service Commission listens to us instead
The
of.
Public Service Commission has the ability to stop.
I suppose the SEC probably would too.
No, I think.
Like for example,
No, but the SEC could probably block the merger on,
Yeah, probably.
monopoly grounds or something, but they're not gonna.
well, I don't know if it was like the Chinese government or a company in China wanted to buy Unicol, and this was it was I think it's a Canadian company, but it ran most of our, I think it was oil, and they wanted all like the technologies behind it, essentially, like fracking, oil sands, deep offshore, wells and things like that. So the Congress was able to shut that deal down because they called it, what was it, a something asset. Basically, it was like a public asset. Oh, that would affect it. Like, do you think that this is? I mean, I don't know if we have any answers to
I
these
think
questions. I'm just
that's
curious.
exactly right. I think,
Okay.
I think utility companies, because they perform a public service, even
Right.
if they are privately owned, have a different set of rules than if it was, say, the McDonald's Corporation being
Right,
bought by a
exactly.
Canadian company.
Well, because I'm just thinking, like, in terms of, like, the free market and a company choosing to sell or merge or whatever it is, like, you know, how do we have a say over whether or not the company does that? And that would be why.
Anyone who supports local business is opposed to the free market. So we oppose the free market all the time.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I obviously.
I'm sure you
I'm
want
opposed to the
Citgo
free market.
gas. All right, who
Which
owns
is
it?
owned by the state of Venezuela. Great place to be, man.
You're supporting
Rest
a
is soul.
foreign
Rest is soul.
government that is anti-American. So,
Also supplies heating oil to poor people in America.
yes, that's also true. Anyway, can we vote on this?
I think so.
We don't need oil.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I think that's it then.
Thank
I
you, Sally, for
move to
bringing this
adjourn.
to us.
You want to do a quick memoriam to,
Boy, I got it last minute, let me
What's
tell
that?
you.
you want to do a quick memoriam to Mr. Chavez?
No. Oh, though. No, I want to know. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right, motion on the table to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And let us know when we're off.
Okay, is the camera off?
Aye.
Don't worry, we're only going to tell